I need to clean this room.
So you're playing Genshin, you do a 10 pull, and you get 5-star Mavuika. Now what do you get with Mavuika besides the Pyro Archon? Well, Mavuika is, spoiler, a pyro-wielding claymore user who is very good on the field as a damage dealer and off the field as a damage dealer. In this video, we're going to look at the basics of Mavuika. Now, just like every other Natlan character, Mavuika has an overworld part of her kit. We've talked about it before, and I'm sure that everybody is kind of used to it now, so we're going to kind of skip through that really quick. Basically, hold E, motorcycle, go burr, right? That's really it, right? So let's move on into her kit. Now, before we look at her actual stuff, I want to talk about how there are going to be some things going on screen where you're going to see lightning, like electro, kind of come out of nowhere. That is from Oreo and how Oreo's kit works, right? So I just want to point that out. That's not from Mavuika, that is from Oreo. Now, it is important to run another Natlan character in a team with Mavuika. The more Natlan characters, the better for Mavuika, actually, because of something that works with her burst. But we're going to talk about that in a little bit. I did just want to kind of point out why there was random electro damage happening when there was no electro character on the screen. Now, Mavuika's normal attacks are going to be normal. They're going to do physical damage right now, and then her charge attack is going to do physical damage right now. But there's really nothing important about her normal attacks right now. Now we're going to look at her skill, and her skill is going to have a tap and a hold. The tap version is going to kind of make a fiery circle. It's also going to set her hair ablaze, and it's going to do an instance of pyro damage, and it's going to also put up your Night Soul's Blessing gauge on the side. Mavuika is a character that's Night Soul Blessing fills, and then it will deplete over time. You don't have to build it up like somebody like Kennich or Shilanen. During this Night Soul's Blessing form, it's going to do instances of periodic pyro damage every 2 seconds. Even if you swap to another character, it is still going to do pyro damage until the Night Soul's points are depleted. Now, because of this can actually make Mavuika a phenomenal burgeoner, not just necessarily having to use her on-field, you can use her as an off-field burgeoner as well. So kind of keep that in mind, and we'll talk about how to build that a little bit later on. Now, if we hold down her skill, then she is going to summon up this wonderful bike and sling it around like it weighs less than Kachina. You are going to get a conversion into her normal charging and plunging attacks, where she is now going to do pyro, and it is conversion, not infusion, meaning that somebody like Candace's burst is not going to override her pyro conversion. During this time, her normal and her charge attack and plunge attacks are going to change to do, like I said, pyro damage. This is where a lot of her damage is going to come from. It is going to last until the Night Soul's Blessing points are depleted. In Natlan, of course, you do have the Phlogiston bar, meaning that it will last a little bit longer in Natlan, whereas outside of Natlan, it's not going to last as long. During her normal attack, she is going to throw this bike around like it weighs less than Kachina and her Claymore, and then during her charge attack, she's just going to kind of infinitely drift around, hitting enemies for pyro damage. So now we're going to talk about her burst, but before we do so, I want to look at her passives and then talk about how she doesn't actually have energy. Her first passive, when a nearby party member triggers a Night Soul's Burst, which is just anytime a Natlan character or a party with a Natlan character in it causes damage, it will trigger the Night Soul's Burst. The more Natlan characters you have in your party, the more frequently this can occur. Anytime a Night Soul's Burst happens, Mavuika is going to gain an increase in attack by 30%. That is a really good buff. Her second passive is going to be that after using her burst, every point of fighting spirit, which is her energy, she doesn't actually use energy recharge, is present when it is used, increases the flat damage that the current active party member deals, and is going to decay over time. So if it's full, it's going to deal a 40% damage increase, losing 2% every second until it reaches 0. So this is going to be important to know, that we are going to get more damage buff the more full or the more fighting spirit she has for her burst. Now, what are fighting spirits? Well, fighting spirit is her energy recharge. She doesn't actually use energy recharge. So if you look at the Mavuika in the trial, they have 135 ER. That is wasted stats. Mavuika cannot use ER. Your goal is to have 100 ER. Your goal is to have 0 ER on Mavuika through artifacts or weapons. Now, fighting spirit, think of it like energy. You need to do something to get fighting spirit to then charge up her burst. Now, there are 2 ways to get fighting spirit for Mavuika. The first is going to be that anytime a character on the field or off the field uses Night Soul's Blessing points, it will give her fighting spirit. So that is what Oreo is doing in this team. Oreo, whenever you cause a reaction, an electro reaction, an electric charge reaction, he is going to do the lightning strikes from off the field that is going to charge and use his Night Soul's Blessing points. He's going to have a continuous fluctuation of Night Soul's Blessing points, meaning that he is going to consistently be giving Fighting Spirit over to Mavuika. The other way to build Fighting Spirit is that Whenever a nearby party member's normal attack hits opponent, meaning Mavuika herself or others, then it is going to give her fighting spirit as well. So she can charge up her own fighting spirit without another Natlan character, but you really, really want that other Natlan character to charge it up faster. Now, you do not need to fully fill the gauge to use her burst, but the more points you have, the better because of that passive, but also because of the state Mavuika goes into after using her burst, and that is called the Crucible of Death and Life. So Mavuika's burst is going to do an instance of pyro damage, a lot of pyro damage actually. She's going to descend from the sky, riding the Kachina weighted bike, hit the enemy, deal pyro damage, but it is also going to put her in the Night Soul's Blessing state and give her 10 Night Soul's Blessing points. Now, during this time, while you have Night Soul's Blessing points, it is not going to consume them. The various actions using her Pyro converted normal attacks are not going to deplete her Night Soul's Blessing points, right? We have 10, but it's not going to deplete them like it normally would. So you can stay in the Night Soul's Blessing state longer. Now, something else is that you're going to get interruption to resistance. Resistance to interruption, and the damage of the normal charge and plunging attacks in this state will be increased based on the amount of fighting spirit you had when you used her burst. So if you fill it, you are going to get a full buff from this Crucible of Death and Life and from her passive. So we need to make sure we have as much as possible. Okay, now that was a lot. So let's go on to artifacts. For artifacts in this trial, and her best is going to be Obsidian Codex. This is going to give her an increase in damage while in Night Soul's Blessing state and increase her crit rate upon using some of her Night Soul's Blessing points. This will give her 40%. So right now, as you can see, she has like 76% crit rate. This is going to be 36 before entering Night Soul's Blessing state. So you don't have to invest a ton of crit rate into Mavuika if you're using this artifact set. For the main sets, you're most likely going to be using attack, pyro, and then crit damage because of the crit rate in the 4-piece. But if you were to use something like Crimson, then you might be using a crit rate circlet instead. Now, you can also use Marshmallow Hunter if you were going to be running her with Farina. You still need that HP fluctuation to be able to run her with Marshmallow Hunter. But she can use the 2-piece and the 4-piece of Marshmallow Hunter. And again, in this instance, you're going to get 36% crit rate from the Marshmallow Hunter set, so you can just heavily invest in crit damage instead. If you're going to be running her in a Burgeon team, then you're not going to be using these artifacts. You're going to be using something like Gilded or a 2-piece for EM, or even something like Flowers of Paradise Lost. You want as much EM as possible on Mavuika to trigger those Burgeon reactions. Now for weapons, of course, you do have 1,000 Blazing Suns, which is going to be her signature weapon. This is going to get a little bit of crit rate, but its passive is going to be amazing. It's going to increase your crit damage and your attack upon hitting an enemy with your skill or burst. Now, while in this instance, by using your normal and charge attacks, if they are infused, if they are doing elemental damage, so you would have to use like C6 Benny if you were to put this weapon on anybody else that doesn't have pyro, infusion, or conversion, then it is going to increase the duration to where you should be able to have this passive up all the time. And then of course, if you have a character that is using it that has the Night Soul's Blessing, then it is going to increase the effects even further. Some other options for weapons on Mavuika are going to be the Beacon of the Reed Sea, which is just also a phenomenal claymore that is good on nearly every claymore user. It's going to get a bunch of crit rate, which is great, and then after your skill hits an opponent, it is going to give an attack buff, and then after you take damage, it's going to give another attack buff. The HP further down is going to be kind of something that mainly only Dia can use, the full effect, but most of the characters can use the first 2 attack buffs and the crit rate of Beacon of the Reed Sea. Some other options are going to be something like Wolf's Gravestone if you lost to it or just got it from the standard banner. This can also be really good at stacking a ton of attack on Mavuika. And then, of course, you do have something like Serpent Spine. For free-to-play options, you do have Tyler Shadow, which is the Fontaine craftable weapon, and then you do have the Natlan craftable weapon, which is going to increase your skill damage after causing a burning-related reaction. So this is going to be another really good option for Mavuika. If you're running her in Burgeon, then you do have something like Mailflower, which I don't have, or Rain Slasher, or even Blood Tainted Greatsword. Blood Tainted Greatsword is a 3-star weapon, but it does have more EM than Rain Slasher, but you don't have as much base attack. So if you're building her full EM, then you're going to be running something like Blood Tainted or Rain Slasher, or if you have Mailflower, then Mailflower. Now, Mavuika is a character that is very, very strong. And because of how strong she is, I have not pulled her. If you guys know me, if you guys ever watch me play the game, then you know that I like using really niche teams. That's why I didn't pull Nouvelette, because using him was way too good. That's why I didn't necessarily pull Mavuika, because using her was way too good. So I have actually skipped Mavuika every time she's came out. I did get Sitlolly whenever Sitlolly ran with her in her original run, but I've skipped her, and I think I might skip her again. I think that I'm going to be pulling for Emily's weapon during this banner because I really, really want to get Emily's weapon on Emily because I like Emily's more niche burning playstyle than like Mavuika. We'll just kind of see what I pull for. I'll keep you guys updated. That's going to be it for this video. Kuki has green hair. I have purple hair that is kind of faded to like bluish colors now, and I will see you in the next one.